We're connecting. At least I hope we are.
It's always something.
Isn't it always something? I am showing that we're connected, but I'm not necessarily seeing the eyeballs. Now, when I say that, what that means is that Restream, which I love, connects, and I see 2 people on Facebook. 5 people. Holy smokes, it's happening, Owen. It's happening.
It always does. Crystal can hear you.
Crystal says, I hear Troy. That's great. You like that epic music, Charlotte? Thank you so much. Handpicked for Owen. He's an epic gentleman. And you also hear Owen. You hear them both. Oh my gosh.
At least at the moment, it sounds like we're doing good.
Owen, could it be? Everyone can relax. Gambit has arrived. Gotta tell you, I said this in the last stream, because, we do a stream every Monday. And this is just for folks who are lining up. This is just the thank you, Rain. Rain says, excellent music this time around. And I picked something very epic, very gothic, and I know you can't hear it, but it is, it's something else. But, in the Mutants and Masterminds Monday stream, which we do every Monday, 2 p.m. Pacific, with Crystal Frazier and Steve Kenson, we said, if you do a stream and you do not have a David body, then you got no body. Thank you, Nicholas. I'm glad you like the music. I'm glad the audio is working. I gotta tell you. Hey, Jason Waltman, good to see you. Owen, we have got quite a crew here. Wow.
Well, we did make a big announcement last week, so word might have gotten around.
Right. Absolutely. Hey, friends on YouTube, say hello. Say hi in the chat. And, one day we will get a situation where I don't even know how this is done, but we want our friends in Facebook and our friends on YouTube to hear what's going on. But let me say this. We're going to begin the show because I feel like I'm looking at our lineup here, the people that are hanging out, and yeah, it's a pretty big crowd. So with that, ladies and gentlemen and friends and family, and here is Owen KC Stephens. It is ThursdAGE with Owen KC Stephens. I'm the disembodied voice of Troy as I'm working through all of this fun audio stuff. It sounds like things are going well. Now, I could have just messed up the whole thing. Duke, good to see you again. Duke's hanging out over on the YouTubes. Liz Quartz is here. Terry's here. Terry says, I'm back and cooking at the same time as I listen. What are you cooking?
Cooking is a perfectly cromulent activity when it comes to any green running property. For it to be a proper green running cooking, there should probably be cheese involved.
Lots of it.
We're willing to cut some slack on that for our less cheese intense brethren.
That's true.
More for us.
Yeah, that is very true. And we are kind of a bulk cheese organization. Duke says, I am a Facebookless boy, and I say to you, Duke, good on you. No judge here. And Nicholas says, why can't I access the stream on YouTube? Is this a joke? Oh, Stan Brown says, Owen, swoon. He is dreamy. I added that part.
Thanks, Stan.
Stan's flirting. Jason says, it's the game, father. Never roll against him. I like that. Or Dragon Bait. I guess you have a couple different options there. That's great.
Call me all sorts of things. The polite ones, it's fine.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Let's see. Greg Mountain says, plenty of cheese embiggens us all. A nice little connection. I actually want to make a cromulent sandwich with a lot of, cheese to embiggen all of us. I think that would be good. Yeah.
I think any cromulent sandwich is going to involve cheese.
I'm laughing only because Nicholas Morrow says, how do I connect to the YouTube stream? And then says, I got it. I had to go to your channel first. Yes, you did indeed.
I mean, it's true,
Looks like there might be cheese campaign. Yeah, absolutely, cheese campaign. All hail the cheese, says Duke. And with that, let's turn off the cheese, which would be me, and talk to you, Owen. We got so much stuff to talk about, and plus, people's questions. And I am telling you, it is a packed house. I mean, I think this may be one of the most well attended discussions we have ever had in our existence.
Well, again, people are aware that we made a big announcement last week. So let's speak to that briefly. So after the stream, later today, people that have sent their email to letsplay@greenrenine.com and want to be part of the playtest and have gone through that process will be getting a playtest packet and an introductory note from me that will talk a little bit about what's in there, what's not in there, and what kind of information we would like. And Troy can walk people through some of the resources we've set up to help you organize and report on games.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was just agreeing. Yes.
Okay. So all of that will help move that forward. And, if you haven't set your email yet, it's not too late. You will just have less time than other people to get feedback to us. What the packet is a very nicely laid out art-free section of the book. So we've got all of how to create a character, because we've made changes to how we recommend people do that, and all of the classes, because we've made changes to those, all of the specializations and the focuses, the equipment chapter, because now you can buy a cat, all of the arcana, because we've tweaked some of them and we've added a bunch from Fantasy Age Companion. What isn't in there, for example, is a GMing chapter, because you shouldn't need new advice on how to GM, right? You can just go to the Fantasy Age basic rule book for that. There isn't a new monster book, because the whole point is that your existing monster resources will work. If you've got any Fantasy Age adventures, any Fantasy Age material, and if you don't have that stuff, you can just do, and I'll mention this, what is sometimes called a Hatfield versus McCoy playtest, which is where you are kicking the tires on the system more than the monsters. So you can either have players go up against each other in a very friendly way. Like, for example, say, okay, we're doing gladiatorial games, and even if a character dies, the magic of the arena will keep you from being dead and you can come back the next time. But you can just take player characters, either player versus player or player versus GM, and pit them against each other. I first did Hatfield versus McCoy playtesting when I worked at Wizards of the Coast, and it is a great way to accelerate the testing of emergent behavior in game rules and in player actions. And obviously, the best way to do it is to have groups of 3 or 4, whatever we would assume the normal adventuring group would be. So you could have 3 or 4 players against one player character written creature that the GM runs. It won't kick the tires on the monsters, but the monsters are already, while there's new information and new ways of handling that we're putting in there, rather than tweak both how player characters worked and how monster works, we have largely tweaked how player characters work, because if this is our gauge, we don't want to change both of these things significantly. And also, since this stuff, the monster stuff, the opponent stuff, tends to be what you get new information of in adventures and supplements and monster books, by leaving this largely static, we maintain backwards compatibility. So even when we're doing things like saying, hey, your monster can now tell you what its fighting style is, which gives you specific kinds of stunts that it is likely to use, so that you as a GM don't have to think about that consistently. You can say, well, I don't care what the most effective, most efficient stunt is. This particular, be it a monster or an NPC, right? This is a heavy hitter. He's always trying to swing for the fences. That's all he cares about. And it'll say, here's a short list of stunts that you can default to. While we will start giving you information like that, how the monsters actually work hasn't changed. So for the playtest purposes, by altering the player information, that's the kind of stuff that doesn't normally show up in adventures. And therefore, all of our adventures and the layers book and all of that stuff remains compatible. And we are taking a lot of stuff from the player companion and putting in this, not all of it. So the player companions will still have some utility to you. There isn't room for all of it, for one thing. But also some of it is more speculative. Some of the player's companion is how, if you want to do this very different kind of game, and we're trying to focus in and tune and perfect the core experience. And we're doing that by altering when classes get stuff and exactly how those things work. And so I'm willing to talk about some of those things now. And if we have questions about them, obviously, Troy can pitch them to me. But just as some examples, in the playtest document, a player character gets a specialization at first level. And specializations are things like I'm a spear expert, or I'm a cavalier knight, or I dabble in magic despite not being a mage. And in the basic rulebook, those are things that you don't pick up until much later, several levels later. And the idea behind the basic rulebook was we didn't want you to have to pick a specialization before you knew how the system worked, what the specializations meant, and how you wanted to adjust your character. But the drawback to that is that first level warriors all tend to look a lot alike. First level mages all tend to look a lot alike. And that is something we gotten a lot of feedback over the years. So the idea is to have a broader set of specializations, and to have this first specialization be a good deal more forgiving about the prerequisites you have to meet. So if you say, my character's experience up to now makes him a swashbuckler, you might not meet all of the normal prerequisites for being a swashbuckler, but your background has brought you to this point, so that's okay. And the rules are specific on what you do and don't have to meet.
I have a question. I have a question for you,
Yeah.
Owen. Let's say if you were hosting a podcast, what class would you be? How would you fit into?
So, two important notes, and I'm going to start with the first one.
Yeah.
If I'm hosting a podcast as an NPC, I may not be any class.
Fair. Yeah.
Well within the specialization, the purview of the GM to say, hey, this is a podcast host, and as a result, I'm giving him a high communication score and a few relevant focuses. And for everything else, I assume he's got a +1. I'm not even going to write it down. And that is a perfectly functional, reasonable thing to do for an NPC.
Okay.
Now, if you're a player and you're like, well, this is a fantasy campaign where I'm told there are crystal broadcast stations, and some people own crystal balls, and you consider a crystal ball and say, hey, my peeps, here's my ball cast, my crystal cast. I'm going to talk about my review of the Dungeon of Seven Dangers down the road. Just did it. And tonight we are sponsored by Vorpal. Yeah, when you need to behead someone. If that is appropriate to your campaign, and I could sure play a game or run a game where that was appropriate, if you were making that as a player character, and you didn't want to go the mage route, which is obvious since you're dealing with magic, right? Yeah. Then my recommendation would be that you take our new class, the Envoy, which is the first time we've told people what the new class is.
Do you hear that? Wow. What? Okay, go on. This is beautiful.
No, it's the first time we've told people what the fourth class is. So our Envoy is our social interaction class, and our tactician class, and our manipulate people with words class.
What? You're describing my whole life.
It's our disembodied voice class.
I love it.
So the reason that is the fourth class we settled on is a couple of things. One was that we had a number of people that kept saying, I like playing a character with a lot of skills who's a good talker. I don't like that character automatically learns to backstab people. Which is what happens if you go the rogue route. You pick up this ranged archery, stab people in the back, sneaky set of things automatically. But also, our president and the original creator of the Age system, Chris Pramus, came up with a really cool core mechanic for how being an envoy gives you some group dynamic options that none of the other classes have or even really come close to. And that core idea, he wrote that up, and I took that and then I expanded on it some, and I wrote some stuff, and obviously now people are going to play test it. So the hope is that you will have a character who is perfectly capable of being relevant and helpful in non-combat or in combat situations, and in fact may even be a crucial linchpin of the party in combat situations, but does it in a way differently from the warrior just dishing and taking damage, and the mage, blasting things with his mage blast and doing weird spells and battlefield control. You instead, your presence gives you the option to make everyone else better. And then in social circumstances, you'll have a bunch of social skills and access to social specializations and focuses. That means that you will easily be able to make your character be good at those things based on what your key attributes are and what what specializations and focuses are available to you.
So this is amazing, and the reason I bring up that particular a podcaster is because we have some guests that are hanging out in chat, and I believe they're over on the YouTubes. It's Wreckage, an RPG podcast, and I picked up on them when I was checking out Instagram, and you'll find them over on Instagram, Wreckage RPG, and it's a hoot. Like you also see them RPG Wreckage on Twitter. They're phenomenal, and this was what an awesome sort of a surprise. I wasn't expecting that at all to that we would share that information with everybody. But basically, Wreckage, you are an embodiment of the new class, which is pretty freaking phenomenal. But do me a favor, folks, check them out.
Once we're sending playtest documents out to people, right? I mean, I have every reason to believe that people will be respectful about the IP and not post the playtest on Reddit or something. But the fact of the matter is information gets out there. Something as basic as we've added a fourth class. Last week I teased that it was not a spellcasting class. I think it's time for us to start teasing what these things are, get people excited, and let them come up with questions that they can ask, because even beyond playtesting, even beyond actually playing an Envoy and saying, hey, this is fun, this isn't fun, this worked, this never came up, there is still, in my opinion, value in people saying, okay, can an Envoy do this kind of thing? And then we can look at it and think, well, can they? Do we want them to? Not every conceivable concept is appropriate for every game or every campaign.
Right.
And a lot of stuff is so specialized that players and GMs ought to be working on that stuff themselves for their own games. But so I want to let people know things like you pick up your specialization at first level. We've got envoys now. I know what my big reveal for next week is, for example, which is about stunts and combat, and ties directly to some of the playtesting I've already done.
Well, here's the other thing. I want to make sure that people understand as well that this reveal, we put this whole program together, and we've got a phenomenal group who come and hang out with us and participate. We do this stuff for you, and so it's really exciting to be able to say, hey, this reveal is for you, and and people are going to pick it up later on demand and all that good stuff. But it's just the kind of thing you can expect on a ThursdAGE. But we do have some questions. You want me to dig into those?
Yeah, great. Let's start. Let me say something else first.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to say, just basic to get it out there, is while these rules kind of look complete, the chapters we're sending out, the whole point is that we still have time to receive feedback and tweak them. So there are no sacred cows in this batch of paper. This farm has no sacred cows. There are a lot of things that we very strongly believe will be the direction we go. Otherwise, we wouldn't have put this much effort into them. But the play test is the next big step towards putting out the book that's not just the book we want, but is the book that you all want. And with that said, yes, please dig into some questions.
Well, first question is, when you have a sacred cow, can you get sacred cheese? Can you make a sacred cheese out of it, or?
So, way back when I think 4th edition was being launched at Wizards of the Coast for D&D, someone said sacred cows make the best sacred bacon cheeseburgers.
Oh.
And that is a slaughter the sacred cow kind of concept.
Yeah,
whereas sacred cows are great for getting sacred cheese is really more of a here's a thing and maybe we can use it in a different way kind of concept. The only value to me for sacred cows, that is ideas that are not even up for consideration of being changed, is that firstly, there are things that are core to a game, and if you get rid of them, you might as well play a different game. Like the age system, for all the age systems, stunts are a core part of that game. If you get rid of stunts, if we say stunts aren't a part of this game anymore, there's no stunt die, don't worry about any of that, we're no longer playing this system. That said, if someone came up with a really good idea on how to do them differently, we as a group would certainly look at that and say, hey, is this a place where we can in fact make some sort of core change? Is there a emergent behavior problem that we haven't foreseen that we can deal with? The other thing is that there are things that are very much what the community comes to a game for. And if you get rid of those, even if you think you are making an objectively better game, you may be getting rid of the thing everyone loved and they don't want to play your game anymore. So everything's on the table, but that table is divided into sections, right? Like, I mean, I've put some new specializations into the game, and for this playtest. And if one of them, someone says, this specialization is terrible, here's why it doesn't work well, here's why it steps on the toes of this other concept, here is why it ruins the play feel, this is the situation where the players were all unhappy, that's an extra specialization. If there's a good argument, even from one person, why it's awful, and I look at it and I go, I didn't think of that, they're right, we can just get rid of that. Other things are closer to this end of the table, where it's not that we will never consider changing them, but that they are so core to the system that we would have to have a very convincing argument and an internal discussion on how to change them. But almost everything is there in the middle, right? It can be dangerous as a designer. This is something that Crystal Fraser and Liz Quartz were just now pointing out. It can be dangerous as a designer of anything, as an artist of anything, to say, this idea is so important to me, I'm not willing to make any compromises on it.
Right.
Because that idea, it's called killing your darlings. That idea may be so important to you because it is tied to your life, your experiences, your views of things, and you may well be creating a piece of art, a game mechanic that works better for you than for anyone else. And if that's what you want to do, that's great. But if you're trying to make a game, usually when I'm working on a professional game release, I want to make a game that appeals to a broad base of people, that a lot of people enjoy, that draws in diversity. So I have to be ready to go, okay, this thing, which I think is the coolest thing ever, this is the barrier for a large group of people I want to include, and I need to be objective about that instead of being subjective and saying, well, that's super important to me. The flip side of that is you don't want to have no artistic vision, and sometimes the artistic vision is, here's a thing that I very much want to put out there, this is important to me, and so one level of complaint is not going to be enough for me to change my mind. As a developer, I live kind of in the middle, right? So I want to create a game that will be enjoyed by a lot of people, that will be very inviting, that will bring people into it, and that will make money. My job is to do that. But my job is to do that for Green Ronin Publishing. So if Green Ronin's ownership says this thing is not on the table for debate, I can say, may we discuss that? And it's not like I get giant directives. I'm just saying that, they are giving me a target to shoot at very specifically. And if I came to them and said, I think we should turn Fantasy Age exclusively into a game about maggots eating cheese and how that improves everything, it would quite reason. Well, there are some very famous maggot-ridden cheeses out there, and I'm not even kidding.
For eating?
Yeah,
Oh.
very high-end stuff. Feel free to look it up. Anyway, the whole point is that they would quite reasonably say, you've lost your mind. You're welcome to bring any ideas to us, but that one is out. And, they keep hiring me and paying me to do things because I don't bring ridiculous ideas to them unless I preface it with, hey, here's a crazy thought, and then we can kick it around a bit, which sometimes it's not unusual for me to turn to anyone in any group. My wife gets this a lot and say, I have an idea, could be genius, could be idiotic. And she knows there that I'm presenting this well aware that it may be challenging, there may be consequences I'm not thinking of. Usually those ideas aren't things that get implemented in any way, but they sometimes spark discussions and runs of ideas that cause things to be implemented. So I still find them useful.
I want to actually say that don't think I don't know that you're reverse trolling me by me asking about sacred cheeses, and you just literally the most unflappable man I have ever met, and I love it. I love every bit of it. Also, I'm a little sad that my clown fight tabletop roleplay game that I keep trying to pitch, nobody's biting, and I see now why, because it's just not a good idea.
So the thing about Clown Fight is I already released through my own company, Cannibal Clowns from Outer Space for Starfinder. So I sort of figured my clown niche in role-playing is covered. Yeah,
that's exactly it. So we do have a couple questions that I want to dive in. Our good friend David Body says, I don't have a group to play test. Is it still possible to volunteer as a player to an existing group? And the answer to that is absolutely. Yes. And
Troy, take that one.
So I dropped that link into chat, and I'm going to drop it in there again. This form takes you to we are sorting you, and if you are a GM that comes with prepared, you've got a group all ready to go. we support that. If you are a GM without a group, we support that. And if you're a player without a group, we support that. And so, and heck, you could even be a player who is part of a group that has a GM. So however that works, you just let us know. Utilizing that form, fill in your details, and then we'll be in contact. And that contact is happening today. So there's that. Now, let's see. Our good friend, and I think is it Jer? I'm going to say Jer Sanchez. You asks, I'd like to playtest, but me and my players are Spaniards living in Madrid. Is that a problem? I usually translate rules and everything for them, and that's not a problem, right?
Yeah,
we welcome Spaniards. Yeah. We welcome Spaniards. So absolutely yes. We've got. Let's see. Rain asks, I'm curious to see how the Bard spec will work with this new class. Everyone really excited about the Envoy class. There's lots of great feedback, and let's see. Duke says we will sacrifice all the cows. Yes, we will. Let's see. Lane asks, very important. When is the character sheet getting intelligence back? Is that? And then in parentheses, I can't help myself. So it sounds like we're talking about something we have discussed maybe in the past.
Troy, are you looking at your Facebook messages? Because Stan just sent you a piece of art.
Oh, Stan, you all so and so you. I'm gonna check that out now. Is there? But am I seeing some kind of a? Is this intelligence issue a bone of contention? Oh, look at that kitty. Who's that?
This is my housemate's cat. This is Alphonse Lord Tubbington of Sausage on Chonk, Order of the Big Biter.
Well, I didn't realize we were entertaining royalty today.
All cats are royalty, Troy. They know
True.
that even if you don't.
That. Oh, Stan, this is incredible. Everyone's gonna want to see this, and I'm gonna play it. I'll have it all.
Yeah, we'll get it up there.
We'll get it up and ready to go before the program ends. But beautiful stuff and a beautiful cat. Lane asks a very good question. Wouldn't you need sacred swine for the bacon then? That's a very good question. Yeah.
That gets into some actual religious taboos that I'm not going to touch with a 10-foot pole.
Absolutely. That's a good point, and let's move on. Let's see. Our friends from the Wreckage and RPG podcast say, when are you hoping to release this? And do you also think if you were halfway through a campaign, you could alter characters to fit within this new?
So yeah. That's a great question. I'm going to hit that one first.
Please.
If you were already playing in a game, could you just take the new core rulebook and make core rulebook characters and replace your basic rulebook characters with them? And the answer is 100%. That's the goal. And literally, my playtest is my home group playtest, the playtest I started before any of the rest of this. We specifically made basic rulebook characters, played through a bunch of stuff, added a few adjustments to see how those went. Like before we added anything else, we said, okay, take a specialization at first level. And that's one of the places where things like take a specialization at first level. I don't meet the prerequisites for any specialization because I'm first level. Oh, that's a good point. And that's where some of those came up with. Greg Mount has a question. We'll get to it in a second.
Sure.
And so we are literally then adjusting that same game and saying, hey, remake your characters with our playtest core rulebook characters, and we'll go on with the game. And that game is the Imagineer game. The Intrepideer game. You can find it at owenkcstephens.com under the Fantasy Age tag. And that has worked fine so far. So that since our expectation is that you'll be able to use all the same villains and all the same monsters and all the same adventures, yes, you should literally be able to just update your characters. Now, some characters will therefore be able to do things that they weren't able to do before. It is possible that someone will look at the character and say, I know I've been playing this character as a warrior, but that warrior was supposed to be a military leader, and I really want them to be an envoy now that we have an envoy. And if you changed classes like that, you could end up losing abilities because the concept is better. But you could 100% do it. That's the plan. And if people find places where that won't work during the playtest, let me know, because I am not creating a second edition of the game. I am not invalidating your bookshelf full of Fantasy Age books. I don't even want to make life more difficult for you. This is intentionally supposed to be a quality of fun upgrade in the rules, where we say the things that we found are an issue, we're fixing. Some things that we figured out how to do that are new and fun, we are adding. We are putting all that stuff in there. As far as when we are releasing the actual game, I am going to be a little bit coy. One, because that's not my department, right? Getting the words and the art order and the game rules together, that's my department. And I don't want to say anything that makes life difficult for other departments. But the other reason I don't want to say a lot about it is that it is really hard right now to say, well, we can depend on 4 months from now, printers being open and container ships not dropping things into the ocean and ports not having lockdowns. So I am on my end assuming that I should be working towards having this out late this year. But I am absolutely not promising anyone anything, because if there's anything we learned over the past year, it's that there is no telling what the tabletop RPG conditions on the ground will be by the time we have anything ready. I can't guarantee distributors will shipping. I can't guarantee that game stores will be open. So rather than give people a promise that says there is something specific that we are shooting at, we're moving towards a general rule. I laughed because I saw Terry Advent questions. It says, rules question. Heal says it requires bandages. Bandages cost 25 silver. How many uses are you allowed from a single bandage? It's not mentioned in the book. My playtest came up with that issue. And basically what we now say is healing requires some source of bandaging, which can be a healing kit, but you can also just be a tear strip from my cloak. Our assumption is you will normally have what you need to heal someone. It's not supposed to be a limited resource unless the GM is doing a scenario where he says, okay, you all wash up on the shore, all of your equipment is gone, you don't have anything. And then someone says, well, can I bandage our wounds? Not right now, but if you want to go out and take a test and do a skill test and see if you can find some leaves you can use as bandages, unless we're in that play style where the GM is saying that there are specific resources not available, we assume you can get bandages, and we've changed the language. That is one of those quality of play changes I've made, because it is never the intent for someone to go, oh, I bought one thing of bandages, I used it once, I guess we can't heal people anymore.
Right, that's right. Well, I'll have you know that I am wearing, from head to toe, a complete outfit made of leaves. Just dried, crackly leaves.
I believe you.
Yeah, it is. It starts out nice, and then by the end of the day, it's a little unsettling. Let's see here. Oh, and I got to tell you, we've got question after question of really good stuff, but there's some things somebody mentions here that I guess that there was a typo in the first edition under intelligence. We spelled it intelligence, which, if you know, that does mean something. But that's when I'm trying to flap Owen, I get very intelligent.
Yeah, we can do an interlative dance and see if we can. No, obviously we are incorporating those spelling and grammar errors we were already aware of. That said, feel free to bring more to our attention.
Yes, absolutely. So if you find any other instances of intelligent interpretations of spelling, do let us know.
And for the playtest, just to note to people, so that we have time to make changes from the playtest. The playtest has not had the professional editing pass that the final game will have before it goes to the printer. So if you have read any of my tweets or Facebook posts or anything I write that does not have professional editing, you're aware that I put of instead of or instead of. I misspell words. I am terrible at proper grammar, etc. Other people have read through this stuff. I have read it several times myself. The hope is that there won't be anything egregious, but if there is, that's not about us not caring to edit things. That's about putting this out at the stage pre-editing so that we can see that the core concepts are good.
Exactly.
I think we will edit this book once it's done.
Absolutely. And then let me grab this one real quick. William C. asks, was confused about the question of, can people with a group or people looking for a group? Absolutely. Please contact us. So if you are somebody, let's say this, if you're a human, you don't even actually, you could be a cat that knows how to use a keyboard. Maybe you're a cat and you have my cell phone number. Give me a call. However works best for you. Sign up. If you are interested in playing or being a GM, or you have a group, or you are one person that is spread out, your consciousness is spread out amongst a group of people, however that works, you are welcome to join. So really, it's pretty simple. Anybody who's interested, we have a space for you. Let's see. Lane asked something interesting. Any limits on using VTT systems during the playtest? No, there's not any limits. There are limits currently just based on the kinds of assets and things, depending upon what you're playing. But we are quickly, like at the speed of light, moving towards VTT support across many platforms. It's a project that I get to head up with some really great people that I'm going to sneak in an update later today, where you will get to meet these three folk, and we'll talk a little bit about some stuff. But they're amazing and they're wonderful, and they're just champing at the bit to talk to you about it. So stay tuned.
We are happy for you to use the virtual tabletop or whatever methods you all use to play. Obviously, this is a public broadcast, so the fact that we are working on this new core rulebook is not a secret. We don't want people to publicly post the new rules for what I think are obvious reasons. We don't mind if you list on something that someone might see, hey, I am running a Fantasy Age core rulebook playtest, and then if they ask you about it or ask anyone else about it, presumably we would just be able to tell them, well, send an email to letsplay@greenronin.com, and Troy will talk to you and take care of your options. I wanted to leap in here for a moment. Someone said, do we know how long people are going to have before we send out surveys and ask questions? So it's a little wibbly wobbly because there's a lot of moving parts right at the moment. I am certainly going to be asking people one round of questions by March 15th, which is a little more than 2 weeks. And then my hope is that we will have another round of questions on March 29th, which may well be informed by some of the things that we get told on the 15th. So those are written in pencil dates right at the moment, but I understand that people need to have an idea how much time they've got. That doesn't mean that if on April 5th you have found a huge issue, you shouldn't send it to us. It's just about the timing of when we're going to have the most slack to look at it, adapt it, change the text, make sure that change iterates through everything else in the rule book, send it off to editing, etc. But the last two core rule books I worked on, which were a different company, those were Paizo, but there was the Starfinder core rule book and the Starfinder Quick Start. Both of those had things where hours before they went to print, we came in and said, hey, here where we said it does 1d 810 damage, we meant 1d8. We took it down from a D10, but we forgot to erase the 10. We don't actually want a D 810, as cool as that would be. So you can keep sending us stuff. I'm just talking about what the core period is where we'll be most able to give it the most of our division.
And it's a question to ask yourself and your group. Your contribution is important, and we want it to fit into your life, absolutely. But to be the most useful to the team right now, is to engage and act as soon as you get this information, as soon as you're able to plan and plot and scheme. And people filling out the form will see that we've asked for a date, and knowing how groups work, and there's a lot of stuff to coordinate there, 100% understood. But the sooner you can dive in, the better. We've got our YouTube friends are very excited. People are super stoked. Duke asks, are we allowed to involve other people in presenting the changes and additions, or are we sworn to secrecy? Well, you're engaging with the people. I mean, clearly we want you to talk to the people you're playing with. And so when you get the information contextually, let's get your group together and have that conversation. But don't share it on Twitter.
We don't want anyone to be talking about all of this in any detail publicly yet. Yeah. If you are someone who is interested in reviewing the playtest or talking about it, then we're interested in having you do that at the right time. So that would be another case where we would just ask you to send an email to letsplay@greenronin.com so that we can all have all our ducks in orders and figure out what will work for everybody.
Absolutely. And somebody said here earlier, and let me find it. So I think it might have been Jason, I could be lying, but so those dates aren't written in blood. No. I mean, they are the idea. There we are. Yeah, it was Jason. The idea here is we're working a organic process that feeds the. We may discover some things. This would be the first ever in a test known to man that there will be no issues, and it's just perfect, it's ready to go, and everything happens right on time. We are all experienced people traveling amongst the community of gamers, and we all know that there's going to be a bump, there's going to be a little delay, there's going to be opportunities to do some other stuff and add some time on there. All we can do is get things done as quickly as possible. Your feedback is the most important part of this process. It really helps put things in the right place, make sure that we're firing on all cylinders, and that everybody can understand what's happening. And so, the faster you do that, the faster the more useful it is for us. And so, and expect dates to slip a bit. That's just kind of the nature of the beast, frankly.
Jason Sunday says, I hope future mages have options to at least use a single Martian weapon. Even Gandalf could wield a longsword. So 2 things. Never say even Gandalf. Gandalf was a physical manifestation of an archangel. And so you can't, unless your character trope is, I want to be the physical manifestation of an archangel, in which case we're going to need a whole other set of rules. And I'm not saying we won't get to those. Even Gandalf is a terrible example. That said, mages with weapons is obviously a trope, and in the same way that I want to open things up so that you can play someone who's like, a favorite character of mine is the Grey Mouser, who's clearly a rogue, but he knows a little magic. There's Fafhrd, his friend, who is clearly a barbarian, therefore a warrior, but was briefly a priest and picked up some tricks. So the idea that you could play a mage, and one of the things you do with your choices and resources, one of the things where you spend a specialization or you spend a focus to say, hey, I want to pick up a martial weapon. We have things in the playtest to do that, and we will look at how well they work and how they respond to. Crystal Fraser said, archangels are boring. I want to be the physical incarnation of anxiety. Crystal, you are the physical incarnation of anxiety.
Really,
I
honestly.
thought you knew.
Yeah.
That's the source of a great deal of your power.
The patron saint of let's see here. Oh, hey, Brian says, Brian Irving, hanging out with the Facebook chat crowd, says, we'd love to review the new book for our Illuminerdi radio show. I'm not familiar. I can't wait to listen after it comes out. I'll drop you guys an email. Actually drop an email sooner than later. And let's be friends. I like that.
Yeah, shout out to the Illuminerdi. They are awesome. I have talked to them before. Yeah, absolutely. Send us an email to letsplay@greenronin.com. If you want to, you can CC owen.stevens@gmail.com.
Heck yeah.
I'm not afraid of people knowing my email. And we will make an Illuminerdi thing happen.
I love it. Absolutely. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us as well. Let's see. Yes, a lot of people are agreeing. Crystal's like, hooray! That's me. I dig it. Go for it.
I'm joking, but Crystal asked when we're going to have a killer clowns for Fantasy Age. Obviously you don't do clowns for Fantasy Age of being a medieval setting. You do fools. So that supplement would be Fighting Fools of Fantasy Age.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm not saying I've got an outline on my desk, but I'm not saying I don't.
So would it be the FIFU? Fighting Fools
of Fantasy Age.
FIFUFA. Fufa. Okay, I like that. I'm sure it's offensive in some language somewhere, so apologies for that.
That's where we can get the assassin chucklers and dagger juggling master killers and alchemist the big red nose white face clown. We can get all that in there.
I love it. Yeah. Duke, just to answer your question, the leaf suit is itchy. It is quite itchy, but then after
someone suggested murder mimes. Murder mimes is absolutely a subset of Fighting Fools.
Well, here's a good one. We have our friend, and I believe, unfortunately, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm going to say that it is. I know that our friend has joined us before. Slit518 says, I've never played Fantasy Age before. is it its own system, or is it like a derivation of another system?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes. So Fantasy Age is the fantasy version of the adventure game engine rules. The adventure game engine rules are a core set of mechanics that were originally developed for the Dragon Age tabletop role playing game. So they were first used specifically for Dragon Age, which is the IP that the video game is from. And they were written by Chris Pramas. Now, Chris, our president and the creator of the rule set, Chris has a career like more than 20 years in RPG design. He worked on third edition D&D. He did a lot of D20 stuff. He's the publisher of Mutants and Masterminds, which is one of the D20 games that has gone the furthest from the original D20 design, and all for specific purposes. He worked on one of the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay sets. There's a bunch of role-playing games that he has worked on and helped create. The Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game. So the AGE system very clearly shows his experience in a lot of these different places, and a lot of the tropes it is designed to recreate are recognizable for good reason. But it has a new tweak to everything. That is that instead of using, for example, 1d6 or a whole pool of d10s, all of your tests, all of your skill tests and attack tests use the same system, which is to roll 3 dice, one of which looks different from the other two, 3 6-sided dice. And if any two of those dice are doubles, then you get a number of stunt points equal to that odd numbered die. And as a result of that, instead of a critical hit system, we have a variable interesting events occur system, the stunt system. And so there are combat stunts, but there are also spell stunts, there are exploration stunts, there are social stunts. And that is the core root of what causes the system to not always have everyone doing the one optimal thing, right? One common thing that happens in RPG design is that some player or even the GM will say, well, I always do best when I step up and use my weapon two-handed and hit for all I'm worth, and so that's what I always do. With the stunt system, that might be your best option when you get no stunt points. But roughly 1/4 of the rolls, someone has a stunt point. So your enemy may have had a stunt point that gives him a defensive option that changes what your best option is. Or you may get stunt points that give you new offensive options that are different and better than you have without them. And the interaction of those means that the entire flow of not just combat, but exploration and negotiation, all those things are interrupted by these unexpected, interesting events that make things better or worse.
I like
And
it. Oh, sorry. Go
and
ahead.
that is the core of Fantasy Age. And there's also now Blue Rose, which runs off fantasy, the
Yeah.
AGE system. There's Modern Age, there's The Expanse, and much like, say, different kinds of GURPS or different D20 systems or different systems that use the old hero system, those rules aren't all exactly the same because they've been fine-tuned to do specific things, but they are all based in the same core set of rules. And if you're the sort of person that fiddles, it's easy to grab an idea from one and put it in another.
Lovely, lovely. Jason Waltman says, and I'm not. Perhaps this is a context of a conversation that I'm missing, but I somehow am gravitating towards the phrase "the fighting death muffins." I truly like. I don't know if it's because I haven't eaten lunch yet, but I would eat a death muffin. I think I would.
It is very common for me when I am discussing game design in a generic sense, right? Like things to think about when designing for a new class or whatever. For my example, to be halfling war bakers with battle muffins.
Battle muffins. I like it. Let's see. We've got some. Slit says, "Thank you for your answer, Owen." Let's see. Duke from our YouTube channel says, "I love the elegance of the core age system, and that it almost everything you can do hinges on that core instead of a subsystem upon a subsystem. Might we get a hint at a freeform magic somehow?"
So we have looked at new things we are doing with magic. We are not currently not in the core rule book taking it as far as doing something like, say, True Sorcery, which grew out of the D20 Black Company book, where Rob Schwab did a spectacular job, both in originally the Black Company D20 book and then later in True Sorcery, of creating a very free-form system. It's one of my favorite D20 things. But that is a much more advanced, much more optional kind of system. And so I am firmly of the opinion that that's the sort of thing we would do in a book after the core. So what I want to do first is get the core where we want it, have the best, most polished, most inclusive, interactive, tire kicked core we can. And then once we have that new core, obviously we will want to sell more books. Hopefully you will want to buy more books. And that is exactly the sort of thing, along with bunny tars, for example, that I feel would go great in an expansion book beyond that. Because I want, one of the things about not making this a second edition is that it will make no sense, therefore, to do the campaign builder's guide a second time, and layers a second time, and all the adventures a second time. The hope is that while we may well update and polish some of that material like we are the companion, that we will be able to build on the existing base and have brand new awesome ideas. Speaking of brand new awesome ideas, Troy, on your Facebook, you have a second piece of art from Stan now.
Oh, you're kidding me. This is
I
like
am not. No,
this
no,
is like
it's
winning the lottery.
it really kind of is.
Okay, hold on here.
I mean, I feel like I'm winning the lottery every time I do a broadcast with you, Troy.
Oh, you charmer, you. Um, this is good. This is so good. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. We've got, yeah. I'm gonna prep this one as well. But Owen, I have just because people who watch and listen to this program, I like to consider them friends. Some friends that we haven't met, some friends that we've talked to digitally for decades. Others of you that we're just meeting for the first time. We've got people who are doing podcasts, people who are running games. We've got people who are, utilizing the age system in ways that we are just. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's just amazing. And so, what I've done for people who are listening is I've put together a little discount. Um, and what that means is if you go to the Green Ronin online store and you put in a the discount code, which you would put, so you'd find things that you'd want, and then you enter in this code, all one word, all caps, for being a friend. You'll get 15% off your order. So that's whatever you want. You throw it in your cart. You go and check it out. You put for being a friend at checkout, and you'll get yourself a 15% discount, which is, that's not nothing. So do that, folks, and especially some of you who are not familiar with the age system. You can kind of go and check out. Owen's made. We've got Blue Rose, and we've got. Adventure Age, Adventure Age, sorry. We've got Fantasy Age, we've got Modern Age. There's a lot of age for you to kind of sink your teeth into, crossing all kinds of genres, and great opportunities for you to have some of your own twists.
Wow. I'm noticing that we've almost used up our time.
I know. I'm trying to get our art up, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, so you work on getting the art up. I'll talk for a minute. I see that there's some questions people have asked that we have not gotten to. I'm going to pick up one or two of those, but if there's anything that you really wanted to know that we did not get to, please just take that question and email it to letsplay@greenronin.com, and then we can start next week with the questions that we want to answer that we didn't get to. So that is an opportunity for us to get that information out. The one I really wanted to answer is over on YouTube, which is, have the original classes changed much? So I would argue that the original classes have been tweaked a lot and changed a little. And I will give you an example of that. All classes now get a specialization at first level. Those are different specialization options. Some specializations are just for one class. Many specializations are for several or for all the classes. So every class has that as a major tweak, but you're going to have the same kinds of specialization choices you had before. You're just getting it earlier, and you'll get more specialization choices as you go. All of the classes have had some places at mid and higher levels where we have made adjustments based on emergent elements that we have seen from mid and high level play. those are, again, not things that should make your character feel different, other than you should not have the wonkiness that some mid and high level characters have had. But your warrior types are still doing warrior-y stuff. Your mages are still picking up arcana. Your rogues still have various special abilities they can pick up, as well as having new options like being able to pick a class-specific stunt, which is something we'll get into more later. So my hope is that if you are playing a warrior and you're playing a 6th-level warrior, and the GM says, okay, we're moving from the basic rulebook to the core rulebook, and you remake that 6th-level warrior, my hope is that will feel very much like if your character was a 6th-level warrior and became a 7th-level warrior. Okay, I've evolved into some new options, but at my core, my character's still the same person, still filling the same role, still doing the same sort of thing.
Right.
Obviously, the difference to that would be if you decided to pick whole new specializations, or if you change classes or something. But if you're playing the same character class at the same level with similar choices, it should feel very, very similar, because we needed to be able to interact with existing adventures in the same way.
You know, so Stan, I'm going to start with a second piece of art, because I feel like you may be calling me out, Stan, because this would be my role. This would be my role. This is so good. Yeah, that would be me. I would, on a 1d 810 damage, I would roll a 1.
Obviously.
For sure.
I mean, I think everyone remembers that moment where they had a D 810 damage and they rolled a 1. I famously have someone in my playtest group who has tracked over years his die rolls to be able to prove that he is a statistical outlier. And I've tracked him right along with him for some of the games that I ran, and he's a statistical outlier. Obviously, since I don't believe in a supernatural force of luck, that could stop at any moment. And it's not all the time, but he rolls way worse than average over the course of hundreds or thousands of game rolls, because statistically someone's going to, and so far that has been him.
That is awesome.
So part of what I have done is look at this game and say, are there parts of this game that we can make more fun for people who roll badly without breaking the game for people who don't? Right? Because we can't just say, hey, you get to add another 2d6 once a day, because someone who's not rolling badly doesn't need that option.
Right.
And there has to be a chance of failure. I'm not talking about not having a chance of failure. I'm just talking about watching him play the game and thinking, well, there are entire fun elements of this game that we have locked behind a luck wall. And some amount of that isn't necessary. We can take some of that and say, well, instead of the luck wall, here are other ways you can access that fun subsystem. So that is part of what we are trying to do with the game in general. That's the kind of emergent behavior where we can say, okay, if we've got 10,000 people playing this game, the person who rolls worse out of those 10,000 people, even though we can't determine who that is in advance, we can know that if we map that, someone's going to be at one end of the bell curve or the statistical curve of bad rolling. And we can think about what is the play experience like for that person.
That is awesome. You know what I actually would like to do? I'd like to do some sort of an experiment where we, over time, we track everybody's rolls, and then we pit the worst of the worst, and we get them all together in a game, and then they play together. Like, I'd love to see what would happen there.
I mean, what my intellect tells me is that it will have no bearing whatsoever on how they do in that game, unless they have badly balanced dice, which of course it is not impossible for apparently random events to not actually be random. I had a friend who kept rolling a 2 on a d20 over and over and over in one game session, and eventually he started cussing, and we discovered that because he had spilled some soda, the die face on the other side of the 2 on his d20 had gotten sticky, and he was rolling on a piece of paper, and it would more often than it would normally stick with the 2 showing up.
That is interesting. I would, Lane, I'm with you. Lane says, I'd love to see that mapped out. To see that data mapped and to kind of figure out what that it would be very, very interesting. And I don't know that it would unlock the secrets of the universe, but it would certainly be fun.
I mean,
Definitely.
statistical outliers are a well-known phenomenon. That's why we've got the term statistical outlier.
Well, so listen, we are running out of time here, but I have to show this one. This is Stan has drawn us the cromulent sandwich, and Owen saying it embiggens us all. It really
And
does.
it almost by definition, the cromulent sandwich is relevant to today's discussion.
It really is. I want to say that every episode of ThursdAGE is like a cromulent sandwich. It's just jammed full of all of the sacred meats you could ever want. Of conversation, of depth, and maybe not so deep. That's what I bring to the party. Everything from suits made out of leaves to brand new classes, and I mean, like, this is just it's literally a buffet of delights, and we serve it up every single Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, and it stars Owen KC Stephens. You're chef, really. You're the chef. What's the assistant to the chef? The sous chef? Is that what I do?
I think you're the maitre d', honestly. You
Yeah.
guide people in, you make sure that everything's ready for them.
Yes.
You get the personnel you need. It's
Yeah.
a very important position.
Yeah, I'm like, be our guest, sort of dancing around, and I'm French for some reason. I have no idea why. But
I'm sure it's the plant matter suit is what's making you French.
it's itchy, and I think it's really sort of making me very, itchy, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Owen KC Stephens, every Thursday is a delight. It's a joy. It's a blast. I want to thank every single person who is watching and sharing. And don't forget that discount when you head over to the Green Ronin online store for being a friend. You get 50% off. And, we're only offering it to people who are listening. So if you're listening and watching, and, that's for you. And it won't be forever. So you want to hurry up and do that. But it'll be long enough for you to, make up your mind and pick up something fun and something you can connect with your pals with online.
Go see what you've got on your wish list.
Yes. Check out your wish list. And, my wish list is, Owen, for you to have a phenomenal remainder of your week. And my other wish is to say, everybody, thank you so much for signing up. The response that we have gotten for the pending playtest is absolutely phenomenal. We appreciate it. We cannot wait. And remember, we're paying attention. We're waiting for your questions. No question is too weird for Owen. Please help me flap the guy. He is just unflappable. With that, we bid you all adieu. Come check out Mutants and Masterminds Monday with Crystal Frazier and Steve Kenson and myself as the disembodied voice. And we will see you and hear from you, throughout the week, because we're going to be connected and talking about playtest stuff. But in addition, you can check back next Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, with I'm sure some new information specific to the playtest.
I got some specific teasers all ready to go.
Did you hear that? We will see you all. Also, to end, thank you, Stan. Your artwork is, that's a chef's kiss. A sous chef. No, that's the maitre d's kiss, which happens right on the lips. Okay, thank you all very much, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.